William Fox presents Sunrise, a Song of Two Humans. Scenario by Carl Mayer, from an original theme by Herman Suderman. Directed by F.W. Murnau. Photography, Charles Roscher and Karl Strauss. Titles by Catherine Hilliker and H. Caldwell. Copyright Fox Film Corporation, 1927. Passed by the National Board of Review. Audio description and score by Bob Dignan. Creative Commons 0 License 1.0. This work has been marked as dedicated to the public domain. Cast: the man, George O'Brien. The wife, Janet Gaynor. The woman from the city, Margaret Livingston. The maid, Bodil Rossing. The photographer, J. Farrell McDonald. The barber, Ralph Sipperly. The manicure girl, Jane Winton. The obtrusive gentleman, Arthur Hausman. The obliging gentleman, Eddie Boland. This song of the man and his wife is of no place and every place. You might hear it anywhere at any time. For wherever the sun rises and sets, in the city's turmoil or under the open sky on the farm, life is much the same, sometimes bitter, sometimes sweet. Summertime, vacation time. A steam engine pulls coaches away from a busy station. Glass panes hug their steel frame and rise high above the trunks and passengers inside, as well as the street traffic outside. The train steams through the open country. A cruise liner cuts through water. On a beach, a woman in a bathing suit and swim cap soaks up the sun as people disembark. A smaller boat with a few people and their luggage inches toward small buildings on the shore, nestled amidst a tall forest. Some on the boat pop up and wave toward the shore. The dock is packed with people, waving and hollering. Parasols spring open, and groups bunch up as the boat nears the dock. Up the winding road, horse-drawn carriages await, and triangular, A-frame wooden cottages perch along the steep bank. White smoke billows from the chimney of one cottage. Among the vacationists was a woman of the city. Several weeks had passed since her coming, and still she lingered. A solitary candle flickers in a dark room. A woman in a slip and robe prances toward it to light her cigarette. She puffs some smoke as she brushes her dark, short bob under control. She searches an open trunk and the closet before deciding on a dress and stripping to her slip. A white-haired man and woman sip from large bowls at a lantern-lit table. The woman of the city is now dressed, and in a coat and hat. She steps into the room. She twists her heels and flashes them to the old woman, who rocks off her chair. The woman of the city props up her foot for a shoe shine, puffing smoke down at her helper. Outside, an older couple converses between a fence and an open window, which lights their faces in the night air. They witness the woman of the city emerge to the road, strolling in night's darkness. She strides past the couple and down the slightly sloped road. Other barns and cottages have lit windows and doorways along the road. One has curtains drawn with figures inside. Her head swivels to glimpse inside while continuing on. She slows at a cottage further down and glides her hand atop a stone half-wall. A man sits alone at a table, his back to the window. The woman of the city purses her lips to a coo. The man's eyes widen as he slowly ratchets his torso round to the window. She coos again. He unwinds just as slowly and steadies his expression. Getting up, he lumbers toward the window, then halts as an aproned, blonde woman enters carrying the place settings. She lays out the plates and cutlery, then exits without a glitch. Head down in his chest, the man follows after her, but doesn't keep pace. He lingers at the doorway, peering after her. He wrings his neck and gazes forward. The table set for two, awaiting supper. He twists his stubbled face toward the window. Outside, the cooing continues. A shadowy figure approaches the window and repeatedly points. The woman of the city nods and smiles. She saunters in the direction of the pointing. The man quickly swaps his coat in an armoire, jerking it over his shoulders in a frenzied burst. He again peers through the doorway and creeps past the table. He exits as the blonde woman returns with a bowl. She yanks her head to the armoire, its doors flung open and insides empty. She slumps and slowly plods to the table. The maid and another elderly woman witness the solitary woman. They used to be like children, carefree, always happy and laughing. In daylight, seated under a tree in the grass, the blonde woman tickles a baby. The man drives oxen up the hill. He rears them to a halt near the tree and skips into the grass. He kisses, hugs, and bounces the baby while smiling. He returns the baby to the woman's lap and prances back to the plow. The maid continues, "Now he ruins himself for that woman from the city. Moneylenders strip the farm. The man stares, hollow-eyed, as the maid shuttles an ox to a man in a hat. After a one-sided offer, the man coldly nods, and the maid walks the ox away, while the buyer marks a pocketbook. And his wife sits alone. The maid turns her gaze back at the table, where the wife wills herself to stand. She shuffles into an adjacent room in a listless daze and droops over a bed like a puddle. A young boy kicks off his covers and plays with her hair while she sobs into the pillow. He pats her tight, blonde bun. The man tramps through reeds, the moon and fog mixed together like ghostly wisps. He ducks beneath branches and climbs over a wooden fence. Hands in his pockets, he lurches ahead. Through dense willow branches, the woman of the city twirls a flower, the full moon bathing light upon the fog, razor-thin reeds, and still waters. She bolts alert and chucks the flower, looking into her clutch a quick lipstick and powder refresh before her guest arrives. They lock eyes, her face beaming. She glides forward slowly, then they burst into an embrace. The wife hugs the crying toddler, her gaze fixed far away from herself. With tears and watery eyes, she kisses the boy and tucks him back into bed. The moonlight sparkles on the lover's lips. She pecks his face, cradled in her arms, his smile blissful. Tell me you are all mine? He nods and pulls her close for a kiss. She runs her hand through his hair. Sell your farm. Come with me to the city. His eyes widen, and he slowly sits up, still cradled within her arms. And my wife? She laughs, clutching him tight. Only the moonlight sees her smile transform into a tight whisper. Couldn't she get drowned? The text smears and runs like ripples on a pond. A man in a powerful stance shoves a woman off a rowboat. The man jerks back and grabs his chest. The woman slinks close, noses almost touching. Then overturn the boat. It will look like an accident. He grits his teeth and grabs her neck. Now on top, he wrestles her into the grass. He releases and turns, but she pops up and clutches him. They toss and tussle until her incessant kisses stun him. They embrace and twirl back to the grass. She's on top once more. She pecks him and says, "Leave all this behind. Come to the city." Come to the city. They lay in the grass. Within the fog above the water, city lights slowly appear. They watch as cars zoom down busy streets and lights flicker. Alleyways, skyscrapers, searchlights. A big band blares their horns and couples twirl on a striped floor. The big band grooves in rhythm. And the woman of the city jumps to her feet, jittering wildly and throwing her arms. He grabs hold of her and tosses her down into an embrace. The village rooftops glimmer under the moon. In the mud, deep footprints of a wide boot alongside a slim heel. The lovers traipse through the mud. She collects some grass reeds. After the boat has capsized, save yourself with these bulrushes. The rushes will hold you up. Scatter them before you reach the shore, and tell everyone she drowned by accident. The man trudges home, hugging the shadows of his rock half-wall. He nudges open the wood gate. The wife sleeps soundly in her bed, while his lay empty. He continues out the gate, arms full. Each step is heavy, as he carefully sneaks. He checks his rear and descends a hill to a barn door. He pushes in. Sliding forward, he is startled by a neighing horse. Breathing heavy, yet steady-handed, he hides the bulrush bundle beneath burlap. He inches into the bedroom, pausing every other step so that no creak would betray him. His wife lay motionless in her bed. Now past her bed, and sitting slouched on his, he's lost in thought. He deflates into his bed. Eyes wide and unflinching, he's still as a stone, save for his heaving chest. Water ripples slowly envelop him and his bed. Misty fog wafts above the water waves. The sky is bright over the village, perched along the shore. At her husband's bedside, the wife leans forward, hovering her face above his still, sleeping body. She caresses his head. She draws the covers over him. Smiling faintly, she tiptoes away. The man drifts awake. His eyes suddenly widen and he bolts upright. The bulrushes lay hidden in the barn. He rips the covers off, then halts. He sighs and closes his sunken and shadowy eyes. Breathing heavily and face in hand, he slowly pivots his chin upwards, looking to his wife, who, in the morning light, feeds the chickens just outside the door. His eyes fall from the doorway. And he sits, transfixed, as a visage of the city woman clutches his chest from behind. Her lips pucker for a kiss, and he turns away. The visage vanishes. She appears again, nestled in his lap, smiling, coaxing for a kiss. Her face and lips surround him. He raises his fist to his temples, pressing inward like a vice. He staggers toward his wife, who continues to spread feed out the door. Their eyes meet, and he extends his hands to her. Her breath quickens, eyebrows flinch, and eyes water, while maintaining a blank expression. She gives way to a smile and takes his hand. The maid plays with and dresses the toddler in his bed. The wife runs in. She spins her boy and tosses him. "We're going for a trip across the water. I may not be back for quite a while." The husband stands alone, fists as a vice. He imagines the act, him strong in the boat, shoving his wife overboard. She runs into the next room and grabs dresses and a hat out of a cabinet. The man slowly clasps the bulrushes. His wedding ring glints, and hands are firm as if strangling the reeds. Dressed, the wife kisses her toddler goodbye. He hugs her and steals her hat. He gives it back. She laughs and kisses him before taking off. A rowboat bobs near a two-plank makeshift pier. The man trods toward the boat, the bundle under his arm. The wife consoles a barking dog on a chain leash. She pats its head and waves. The man stuffs the bundle into the hull. He looks back and sees his wife prancing out of the gate. He hastens his task and stuffs his hat as well. She descends the bank to the pier, light on her feet, and then steps into the boat as he prepares the oars. He unties from the pier, yet stops, stunned. He slowly turns to see the dog, still chained to its doghouse, fervently barking and lunging. He breaks the stun and hurriedly shoves off. The wife grabs the rudder as he rows. The dog breaks free and bounds the gate. It sprints down the pier and leaps toward the boat, swimming the remaining distance. The wife whips her head from the dog to her husband. He grits his face and pauses rowing. She helps in the sopping wet dog. Mechanically, head buried in his chest, the man swivels the boat and brings them back to the pier. The wife pats the dog's head as the husband yanks it out by the collar. They ascend the slope toward the gate and home. Glee leaks out of the wife's face. She watches from the boat with pursed lips. She attempts to rise, then sits again, a smile resurrected by the attempt. That smile fades like a sunset from her face. She picks at her fingernails. She makes another attempt to exit before seeing her husband descend the hill, dogless. She sits, pacified, as he re-enters the boat. He shoves off and turns the boat. The wife also turns to look upon the village. Her neck untwists to face her husband on the opposite end of the boat. He rows, eyes down at his knees. She cocks her head sideways, searching for a smile to match hers. He rose, his hair flopped over his brow. She releases her smile and vacantly stares. Ducks fly off in their wake. The wife wrings her hands and scans around them. No land in sight. Still, she is denied eye contact with her husband. His rowing tenses to a pause. Head down still, he folds the oars into the boat. She bends again, searching for answers, not smiles. Hunched over, only his eyes turn upward, and slowly. He unfolds to a hunched stance, his hands like dumbbells sagging his shoulders downward. He steps forward, the boat wobbling. She shrinks into her seat. He inches closer, towering over her. She leans back, extended over the stern, mouth agape. Her hands then clasp like a prayer, and her eyes wince. Stoic, his haggard face is resolute. She pulls toward him, then his arms swing at the air, covering his face. He recoils into his seat and quickly mans the oars. She sobs, face in her hands. He rows, head down. The boat cuts through water as he argently rows. They approach the shore, neither looking at the other. The man lassos a tree stump to tie off on a grassy slope. He extends his hands, and she jolts out of the boat, running ashore. He chases her. They fall among the rocks. "Don't be afraid of me." She breaks free and continues. He follows, feet slipping. Her sprint tires as she nears a set of tracks. A trolley pulls up and brakes to her hailing. The conductor lifts the wife aboard. The husband sprints to catch the trolley, jumping in as it pulls away. Their eyes meet briefly. As they settle near the front, their chests heave and heads bob along the route. Trees, hills, and water pass by out the trolley windows. The couple catches their breath, both downcast. The woman hugs herself, eyes glued to the trolley floor as wind curls her blouse. A trolley operator taps the glass, and the husband turns. He pulls money from his pocket. The woman hugs herself, wind curling her blouse, and eyes glued to the trolley floor. The trolley veers tight turns. Forest replaced by buildings and busy streets. Horse-drawn carriages crisscross automobiles and pedestrians on the street. The trolley rounds a wide curve. The couple cemented in position as the city scurries outside. 5-story buildings wrap around a traffic square. Pedestrians fill the sidewalks and traffic islands, dodging trolleys and cars. The trolley stops, and the conductor prepares to let off passengers. The husband turns to his wife and extends a hand while descending backward to the street. "Don't be afraid of me." She looks him in his eyes and flinches. He drops his hand, and she dashes past him. He chases, but is blocked by passing cars. She skitters into the chaos, leaping back to avoid a speeding car. Her husband is there to catch her. He grits his teeth, and they press on across the street, dodging cars and bicycles. He steps them up to the curb. Her face still downcast, he loosens his hold to look about the hustle and bustle. Fixed at the hip, they scamper into a cafe. Away from the front door and the other patrons, he walks her to a small table before sinking into the chair next to her. Both downcast as on the trolley. A waitress approaches them. They both turn to the sagged wife. The waitress points where she came and heads off in another direction. The man shuffles around a glass partition, returning with a plate of bread slices. He returns to his seat. Without expression, he slides the plate toward his wife. She's startled by his intrusion into her space and glares at him. He retreats into his downcast. Her hand floats to the bread, eyes unbreaking from her glare. The taste of the bread weakens her to tears. She collapses to the table, head in her sleeve and sobbing. Averting his gaze, he tensely wrings his hands, torso paralyzed. Her sobbing slows. She wipes her tears and gathers herself to stand. Pulled like a magnet, he follows her out the cafe. She pauses outside the door, and together they enter the flow of pedestrians. He runs ahead to a flower stand, grabbing some to present to her. Accepting them eventually, the sobbing continues into their bright petals. Timid to console, he flusters his coin purse to pay the vendor. They walk on, fixed at the hip once more. At an entryway, they duck away from the traffic. He caresses her shoulder, face soft, while she cowers and bawls. Multi-story buildings and towers extend into the sky. Electric streetlights signpost the causeways for cars, carriages, and foot traffic. She wipes her tears and straightens slightly. Their eyes meet, and her breathing steadies. They re-emerge into the sunlight of the sidewalk. Across the street, a veiled bride ascends carpeted front steps, lined with well-dressed men and women, and leading to a large doorway. The couple look to each other for a moment and walk forward. Inside, they approach a formal, yet sparsely attended wedding ceremony. A minister stands before the bride and her groom. Glimmering beams of sunlight illuminate from high above. The husband and the wife slide into a pew and sit. Her gaze is meek, the faintest of smiles, and head tilted slightly. His brow furrowed, yet eyes watery and leaning forward. The priest instructs, God is giving you, into the holy bonds of matrimony, a trust. She is young and inexperienced. Guide her and love her. Keep and protect her from all harm. Mist wells in the man's eyes as tears run down his cheeks. His lips and brow quiver, another tear drops. Wilt thou love her? The groom nods, and the husband collapses, weeping, into the lap of his wife. In an exhale, she folds over him, kissing the back of his head, caressing his hair. She guides him to stand, and he lumbers down the pew, head in his chest. Sunlight sparkling over them, the groom places a ring on the bride. Outside the sanctuary, the husband collapses once more. He buries his head into her torso. She kisses his face, wet with tears. Forgive me. She kisses his head and hair. The church bells clang in their tower. Smiling, the couple continue to peck and then embrace. Spectators line the front steps and ready themselves as figures emerge from the darkness of the church interior. It's the husband and wife of the farm, glued at the hip, strolling in unison, eyes fixed on each other. They continue down the steps and across the street. Cars whiz past them on all sides as they remain fixed on each other, unfazed. The traffic fades away, melting into a lush flower meadow as they amble in each other's arms. Smiling, they pause to kiss. The meadow vanishes. Cars and horses careen toward the couple. The drivers slam on their brakes, passengers jostle, and a bicyclist crashes into a stopped truck. Pandemonium as people shout around them and honk horns. The couple snaps out of it as the city dwellers scoff and shoo them. The traffic starts back up, and the couple pauses, safe on the curb. They laugh and regain composure before walking on, still enthralled with each other. On the sidewalk, hurried pedestrians brush past their gliding. They chance upon a display case in front of a building. Inside the case, several portrait photographs hang framed. 3 of them feature a bride and groom, all smiling back at the couple reflected in the display case. They nod in agreement to each other and turn to the door. The wife peels away and blows kisses at a toddler's portrait. She turns back to her husband and they hug. She pecks his cheek, then bounces back. They squabble over his stubble, but through warm smiles. She leads him away from the portraits and up to a barber shop. Through large glass doors, patrons and barbers fill the bustling room. A maitre d' in a tuxedo opens the door, welcoming them in. He whisks the wife away as her husband is intercepted by a barber with an empty chair. His head swivels to his wife as he sits. His barber gets to work as the wife is persuaded into her own barber chair across the room. Before she can protest, her hat is lifted by the maitre d'. Her barber lassos a cape around her and begins plucking the pins from her tight, blonde bun. She tosses the cape and shakes her head to the maitre d'. He guides her to a waiting bench and gifts her a magazine. He turns heel and rolls his eyes. She settles into the bench and watches her husband fully reclined in his chair, the barber patting his face with a steamed towel. Another barber removes a steaming towel from a metallic warmer next to the wife. She blinks and straightens her spine. A tall woman in a black blazer and a bob sets side tables and a stool beside the man, his face to the ceiling as shaving cream is whipped upon him. She sneaks looks at his face and sits. Eyes wide, the wife leans in. Manicure? Paralyzed under the shaving cream, the man's eyes find the manicurist. The barber rolls his eyes. The manicurist shrugs as faintly as a wink, then digs out his arm from the cape. The wife gasps. His hand is large in hers, and she smiles. The husband attempts to sit up, but is braced down by the barber, massaging cream into his lips. The barber rolls his eyes. The manicurist examines the hand. You'd look grand with a high polish. The husband vigorously shakes no. She pumps her eyebrows and waves goodbye. The wife's panic is overcome by a dreamy smile. She sinks into the bench. The barber continues the shave. A suited man in a thick-brimmed hat sits next to the wife. His newspaper holds his attention only a moment before he looks the wife up and down. She doesn't notice. Leaning back as if to read, he nuzzles his shoulder into hers, his elbow overlapping hers. She turns to him. He answers with a tight yet full smile. She recoils and scoots away. The husband is captive under the barber's knife at work. She leans forward, but is singed by the towel warmer and leans back, bumping the suited man. They lock eyes and reset. He cocks a side smile and lets the newspaper fall. The barber obscures the husband's view of his wife. The suited man plucks a flower from her bouquet and sniffs it. She huffs and clutches her bouquet. He kisses the flower petal and pins it on his lapel. Comb in hand, the barber denies the clean-shaven husband from leaving his chair. The wife's eyes dart between the metallic warmer and the suited man, who now sneaks his finger to fondle her arm. The husband brushes away his barber, his clean face darkened by his narrowed eyes. She rises into his arms. He smiles and slowly moves her aside. The suited man slides down the bench when his shoe is trapped by the husband's boot. She walks away after a calm smile from her cleaned-up husband. His smile dissipates as he turns to the suited man, slowly pulling out a pocket knife. The shoe wiggles under the boot. The suited man leans back, eyes wide as the husband gradually approaches. He flails to protect his neck, whilst the husband cuts the flower off the lapel. Both men hold a stare as the husband pockets the knife and walks off. Sweat beads under the brim of the suited man's hat. The wife fits her hat atop her head, and the couple reunite at the register. The maitre d' scurries toward them. He bows. Come again. They bow back. Thank you, and you must come and see us sometime. They shake hands, and the couple resume their synchronized stroll arm in arm, lost in each other's eyes. Outside the door, the man puffs his chest and smiles. She shakes her head and playfully ruffles up his hair. They laugh and dart away. A photographer pulls his head out from the hood of a camera to coach the pair into a portrait pose. The husband, stiff as a soldier, tilts his head unnaturally. The wife, nestled against her husband's chest, accepts a gentle tweak of her neck from the photographer. The photographer backs away, palms outstretched, willing them to remain still. Congratulations, she is the sweetest bride I've seen this year. A smile overtakes the husband's stern, stiff face. The wife laughs, and he shakes off his smile to resume his stately pose, before they both burst into laughter, clutching each other. She sneaks a kiss while the photographer tinkers under the hood. The couple appear upside down through the camera's lens. They peck soft kisses. Seizing the moment, the photographer inserts the film and depresses a button on a cable. The couple breaks it up and resumes their stately pose. Removing the film, the photographer nods and walks into an adjacent room. The wife's eye is caught by a plush sofa in the studio. She sits on it and bounces up and down. The husband rushes over, eyes darting between his gleeful wife and the adjacent room. She plucks a grape from a side table just before he can stop her. She bounces more, smirking while chewing, and her husband smirks back, trying to scowl. She plucks another grape and attempts to feed him. He protests in jest, and they pretend struggle. He bumps a nearby statue, which crashes to the ground. He freezes. She gets up to investigate with him. The statue's head has come clean off. The wife's jaw drops. The husband gently stands the statue atop its pedestal. They then frantically search the area high and low. The photographer re-enters, and the couple bolt upright as if on trial. Blocking view of the statue, the husband gestures and the wife crosses to the photographer. He snags a round object from the sofa. The husband sneakily swivels to face the headless statue and plops a toy ball with eyes and a duck beak where the head should be. Photos in hand, they quickly pay the photographer, and the wife rushes the pair out of the studio. The photographer halts them by waving a paper. The couple pauses, then slams the door shut. The photographer's chuckle recedes as he notices the toy ball atop the porcelain statue. One eyebrow cocks up as a smile returns to his face. The couple pant in laughter outside the studio. They peek at their photo, both of them embraced in a deep kiss. The wife is gobsmacked. They both buckle in laughter. The husband pockets the photo, and they re-enter the sidewalk. The city streets bustle. Laying on her stomach, feet up, smoking a cigarette, the woman of the city reads the newspaper. An advertisement reads, "Farmers, if you want to sell your home and move to the city, we pay cash. United Real Estate Company, National Band Building." She smears lipstick around the ad. She smiles and drags on the cigarette. A disc with a bright center sparkles as it spins in darkness. The darkness recedes outward from the disc, still spinning and towering over a crowd. They stream single file, converging neatly into a tunnel under the spinning disc. Each member in the streaming line hands a ticket over a counter. Attendants in white jumpers stand their posts, smiling at the march of the converging queues. They proceed under arches adorned with lights. Two men, dressed as King's Guard, head and shoulders above the queues, are still as statues at the tunnel's end, opening into a buzzing outdoor fair. An elephant strides before the crowd carrying a man. High on a pedestal, a clown gathers attention. A roller coaster car zooms past the incoming crowd. Couples walk the grounds. Past a fountain, dozens of tables are brimming with diners, each table lit by a globe-like centerpiece. A waiter polishes a wine bottle and places it on an empty table, then straightens the chairs. Layers upon layers of twinkling lights, carnival rides, performers, and streams of patrons fill multiple stories of the exhibition. The husband rears back a throw, aiming for a bullseye at a carnival game. A man in a top hat exclaims, "Hit the hole! Make the piggy roll!" The husband gathers up another ball, points to the piglet near him, and the couple laugh. He throws. Two pigs snout open their cage doors and waddle toward a slide. The wife and crowd watch the pigs zooming off the slide into a large cushion before prancing away. The wife swivels her head, taking in the view while her husband continues throwing. Through large glass panes, a conductor directs a band and couples dance. She taps his shoulder and nods at the dancing. Couples hold each other close, smiles beaming. The husband smiles and throws another ball. The wife fixates on a waltzing pair, their faces pressed together, lost in the moment. She grabs her husband and sweetly gestures to go dance. He smiles back and throws another ball. A pig nudges a gate, and the spectators all leap in excitement as the husband runs off bent over. The couple flash through the crowd, followed by the man in the top hat. The piglet bolts up some stairs and into the dance hall, frightening some couples. Laughing, the patrons either flinch or pursue just like the husband. The wife laughs at the entrance to the dance hall. Shadows scramble across a wall as the pig darts behind curtains. The husband whips open the curtains and is shocked finding the waltzing couple entangled. The pig scurries off, as does the husband, but not the preoccupied couple. In a kitchen, a chef dusts his hands before grabbing a platter of dirty dishes. He shakes a bottle of wine and widely grins. He goes for a drink but pauses. He scans out the serving window before committing to a swig. The pig rounds a corner of the kitchen. The chef lowers the bottle and lets out a deep sigh. He smacks his lips, goes back for another, then freezes. A white tablecloth waddles around the kitchen floor. The chef gasps and drops the wine bottle. Horrified, he rears into a sprint. The pig escapes the tablecloth and laps up the spilt wine. It smacks its lips. It snouts the bottle around the floor and struggles to find its footing. The pig slips a bit on the checkerboard kitchen floor. The husband sprints up to the serving window, and his eyes bulge. The pig knocks over more wine bottles off a side table. The husband creeps into the kitchen and rustles up the pig. Exiting the kitchen, he's met with applause. His wife joins the triumphant celebration in front of the bandstand. The top hat man collects his pig and shakes hands with the husband. A man whispers into a bandmate's ear and they nod. A trumpet player mounts sheet music to his instrument titled Midsummer Pleasant Dance. The wife cocks her elbows out and, with hands on her hips, immediately sways with the music. The husband stiffens and puts his hands in his pockets. The crowd encourages him with applause. He attempts to shoo her off the dance floor, but her resistance triggers a hidden smile. A man nudges the husband and asserts with claps. The husband stomps toward the jeerer when his wife jumps between them. Her smile and laughter melt his grim expression. He gives way to a smile and rips off his overcoat. The crowd applauds, and the couple face each other, hands on hips, hopping in a folk dance. A crowd member fiddles with his vest buttons. A dress strap slips off the shoulder of a young lady next to him. He winces a smile and helps it back up. She nods in thanks, and they return to watching the folk dance. A circle is formed around the couple as they twirl, jump, and kick. The dress strap falls again. Side-eyeing it, the man helps it again. As she nods and thanks, her opposite strap slumps off. The man reaches around her to fix, and, again, she nods. The crowd applauds. The husband hunts for a kiss between dance moves. The wife delightfully dodges. The strap falls once again, and the man rolls his eyes, helping without a smile. She nods in thanks. The couple hop and twirl. The crowd erupts with applause. As the young lady applauds, the man pins his fingers on her shoulders. He exhales and rolls his eyes after letting go. Her strap droops. Sullen, he straightens it. The couple dance, holding hands. Then waists. Then tight and embraced, yet swaying. Their beaming smiles draw more applause. He lifts her up into a spin. The man fixes a fallen strap. It falls again after she nods in thanks. She's unaware. He winces, exhales, and yanks down the other strap. She clutches her hands over her chest and slaps him across the face. Stumbling backward, he gives a thankful nod. The spinning concludes with a kiss, and the circle collapses in cheer around the couple. The husband collects his coat, and they walk off the dance floor. The restaurant patrons, just outside the glass walls of the dance hall, clap as the couple finds a table to plop down. They share a sip of wine, and the other tables return to themselves. Panting, they smile and pour another glass. She tips her glass into his mouth and follows it with a kiss on the cheek. They hug. Above them, clouded in slight fog, winged angels appear, flying and circling them as they embrace with eyes closed. A waiter walks up behind them and scribbles on his notepad. The couple open up their eyes and the angels fade. The waiter drops the notepad on their table with a smirk and pumps an eyebrow. The couple take the notepad, look to each other, look to the waiter, and the husband digs out a coin purse. He pulls out what he has and halts, breathing heavily. The wife grins and straightens her back before digging out her coin purse. She clunks 2 coins and they laugh. The waiter bows and they gather their hats and coats. The wife stands and wobbles a bit. She plops into her chair, smiling and holding her head. Concerned at first, the husband too smiles and helps her up. He grabs the wine bottle and they gently wrestle it back. She points to the flowers and he whips those out of their vase. Hip to hip, they talk and laugh, moseying past dinner tables. They circle around the fountain and toward the roller coaster. Patrons file in and out of the tunnel. Before exiting, the couple whip around to catch a firework display shooting over the roller coaster tracks. Eyes fixed on the fireworks, they inch backward toward the exit, still closely connected. The city buzzes at night. A porter boards a trolley under an electric street lamp. The couple hurries up the curb. The husband swoops the wife up and into the trolley. He climbs in and the trolley takes off. They settle in, laughing and panting, gazing at each other. We'll sail home by moonlight, another honeymoon. A small sailboat bobs beneath the moon, casting the only light on the open water. The boat calmly drifts. Reclined on his lap, the wife smiles and looks up at her husband, his clean face grinning at the open water. Her laugh breaks his stare as he echoes the laughter. He squints and perks up, as does the wife. A raft floats by, with people dancing and playing music around a crackling fire. The couple wave, and the wife rocks her head side to side, reclining back again. She keeps the tempo, cocks out her elbows, and turns to her husband. He lunges for a peck like a bird, but she dances out of reach. He smiles watching her. She quickly turns for a kiss, and he turns away, lips pursed. She laughs and hugs him. They embrace and kiss, leaning into the boat. Lights, cars, and pedestrians fill the city streets. Eyes closed, the wife snuggles into his chest as he looks out onto the water. He discreetly covers her neck with her shawl and opens his coat to nestle her head. He smiles. Lightning streaks across the sky. Pedestrians scatter across rainy city streets. At the fair, wind whips tents as patrons flee. The streetlights alone shine through sheets of rain. A man hugs his newspaper in the wind and loses his hat. Horse-drawn carriages and cars dart across the streets, illuminated by flashes of lightning. The husband's smile wrenches to a wince as his hair and coat billow in the straight wind. He steadies the boat while his wife sleeps. The people of the city scramble, holding their hats. Rain beats down on the city pavement. Splashes from hurried feet and zooming cars are taken in the wind. Still asleep, the wife reclines further in her husband's lap as he tugs the sail and braces the boat. Waves kick up and mist over the beam. He gently props her seated, but she slumps horizontal. He removes his coat to cover her. Squinting upward through the rain, he lowers the sail. The choppy waves froth and glint in the lightning. Sail down, he readies the oars. The wife is awakened by a flash of lightning. She hurries to the center and covers herself with a soaked coat. He points. The sky lights up to catch the village rooftops in the distance. Lightning splinters the stormy sky. He wrestles the oars through thick waves. One snaps, and he rows only with the other. The wife swivels her head and is rocked off her seat. He catches her. Faces pressed together, he holds her tight with one arm and rows with the other. The boy bolts up in bed. The storm blows through his window. The couple hug close, kissing and sopping wet. The man pulls out the bundle of bulrushes from the bow. He wraps a cord around the bundle as she wraps her arms around his neck. The maid swaddles the boy in bed, clutching him tight with each lightning flash. With the bundle fixed to her back, the wife holds her husband close. Windy waves splash over them. Lightning and fury froth the water. A torrent engulfs the boat and the couple. Rain above and choppy water below, windows from the village are specks on the horizon, barely visible through the rain. The moon shines through the clouds, the water calm and twinkling. Among crags of rock and piles of driftwood, the moonlight awakens the husband, who climbs out of the water to the shore. He heaves each hand like bricks up the climb until he reaches dry land. He cups his hands to his mouth and shouts. His body quakes with each exclamation. Stumbling to his feet, he travels along the shore, belting out with each step. The woman of the city lay in her bed asleep. Lights flicker past her windows. A man with a lantern held high races through a corridor as he shuffles aside a panicked woman. The woman of the city bursts awake. Half dressed, she runs to the window and leans out. Another woman scurries by. Noticing the flickering lantern lights, she freezes, slowly backing away from the window. She ducks low and peeks through the front window. More commotion, and lanterns scurry about. Villagers beckon each other down the lane. She breathes heavy, and quickly changes from nightgown to overcoat and hustles out the door. Carrying boards and lanterns, streams of men run trodden paths. The woman of the city creeps out of the brush and watches from afar. The husband runs into the arms of the crowd gathered at the shore. He drops to his knees, panting and pleading. They hoist him to his feet and usher him to a boat. Onlooking, the woman of the city stills her breath. Restless, the crowd watches many boats row away. The husband leads the vanguard, lantern in hand, shouting into the open water. Jostling like a cork adrift, the wife floats on the surface, bundles under one arm, eyes closed, her face upturned to the sky. The husband peers out over the boat. The wife drifts, her head half submerged, a trail of bulrushes in her wake. He cries out, eyes wide, his wedding ring glinting in the lantern light. The broken rushes also catch the light. His face goes gaunt. Only rushes floating on the surface. He pleads with his row team, then extends over the bow, lantern skirting the water. Only rushes and murky water. The bouquet of flowers lay limp and soaked, floating with the bulrushes. He stares, motionless, tensed. One of the rowmen turns inward and lowers his hat to his chest. The husband collapses like a stone, arms limp over the bow. The rowers heave him upright as the other boats in the search party cluster together. Other men lower their hats. Unresponsive to loving pats, the husband stares ahead, eyes wide and sunken. The boats slowly turn back. At the shore, the crowd watches, as does the woman of the city from her perch in the brush. They plod up the path, lanterns swinging. The husband is aided by a man at each side. The woman of the city watches as he passes. She gets up. Inside, the maid holds the swaddled baby. She rushes into the chest of the man as he's walked through the doorframe. He doesn't react. The maid sobs into his chest. A grimace takes hold his face. She turns aside, still sobbing, and sits in a bedside chair, sleeping boy in her arms. The men leave the home. Into the bedroom, the man puts one foot in front of the other. He slows in front of her empty bed, his arms heavy at his sides before collapsing into her bed. The moon illuminates the village through wispy clouds. Looking over her shoulder, the woman of the city strides to his gate. She checks her rear and gives a whistle. Unfazed, the man remains kneeled over the bed. She opens the gate and leans forward with another whistle. The man slowly lifts his head. She sneaks along the side of the home and peers through the window. He clenches his fists and tenses to a stand. She catches the door as it swings open and stands before the man, who lumbers into the doorframe, arms stiff at his sides. She reaches for an embrace. His dead-eyed stare slowly reverses her step. In a dash, she bolts away and he comes alive, frenzied and chasing her. A search party carries the wife up the banks. She's limp under the lantern light. The husband catches the woman of the city around a dark corner. They struggle along a fence. He bends her over the fence in a chokehold, Her dark hair shines in the moonlight as she thrashes. The maid calls out the open doorway, her hand cupped to her mouth, eyes wide. His head turns while his hands continue to strangle the woman into the ground. Tears sparkle on the cheeks of the maid as she yells. He loosens his grip, and the woman of the city quivers away. Hunched, he slowly turns back to his home. The maid and a crowd race to meet him. She hugs him, and he sprints inside. He rushes to his wife, who lays in bed, blonde locks wet and wavy, flowing from under a hood. She awakens. Smiling, she cups his head into her chest and looks upward. The maid plops into a bench and hushes the excited group of rescuers. An old man with a pipe says, "I couldn't give up hope. I know the tides. I went around the point." He leans over the bow of his boat and fishes the wife out from the water. They laugh on the bench as the maid wipes her tears with her shawl. She laughs and hugs the old man. He grins, pumps his eyebrows, and leans in with his cheek. A scowling woman behind the bench yanks his ear before the maid notices. The group all laugh. The maid shushes them and shoos them out of the home. Fog hugs the tree lines of the countryside as the sunrise glows brighter and brighter. Eyes thin, the woman of the city bounces as she's driven down a lane in a farm cart by a man and horse. They round a turn, out of sight. Dawn shines upon the wife in bed, her tresses dry and below her shoulders. To one side, her son sleeps in her arms. To the other, her husband smiles, hand in hers. Her eyes slowly peel open. A smile washes over her, and she rises to kiss her beaming husband. A bright light centered, with rays of light emanating outward. Text appears. Finis.